The minute you spin up a fresh Ubuntu server, it is sitting on the open internet and the whole world can reach it. Within minutes, automated bots are scanning it, knocking on every door to see which one's open. Today we put up the wall. By the end, you will have taken a brand new Ubuntu 2604 box and turned it into a locked door that only lets in what you choose. And we will do it the safe way, explaining every command so you never lock yourself out. No prior Linux experience is needed, so if you can open a terminal, you can do this.
Kay here, and the good news is Ubuntu already ships the tool for this. It is called UFW, the Uncomplicated Firewall, and the name is honest. It really is the friendly front end to the heavy machinery underneath. The catch is that on a fresh system it is installed but switched off.
And I am Nova, here as the complete beginner, asking the questions you are probably thinking. So my first one is blunt. If Ubuntu has a firewall built in, why is it off, and what does turning it on actually change?
Perfect question, and it frames the whole episode. Off means every incoming connection is allowed by default. On, configured the way we will show you, means everything is blocked except the few things you explicitly open. That is the entire idea of a firewall, and it is just a handful of commands.
But there is one trap we have to defuse upfront because it bites beginners constantly. If you turn the firewall on before you tell it to allow your remote login, it locks you out of your own server. So the order of the commands matters as much as the commands. Nova, you mentioned a viewer wrote in with exactly this fear, so read it for us.
Yes, and here it is, word for word. I just got my first cloud server. How do I lock it down without locking myself out? That is basically my own situation too, so show me the safe order, slowly. I want to actually understand each command, not just paste it.
That is the right instinct, and it is how we will do it. Every command goes up on the screen, and we explain what each word and each flag is doing before we move on. Kai, open a terminal and let us start where you always should, by checking the current state.
Here is rule 0 of touching any firewall. Never work blind. Before you change a single thing, you look at what is already there. So the very first command is a status check. Watch the screen. I type sudo, then UFW, then the word status. The word sudo just means run this with administrator power because firewall changes needed. And UFW status simply asks, what is the firewall doing right now? It answers, status inactive, which means it is switched off.
So right now, nothing I type is actually protecting or blocking anything yet. The firewall is asleep, which honestly makes this the perfect low-stakes moment to learn it, while nothing can break.
Exactly, and that is the point of checking first. You always want to know whether the firewall is on or off and what rules already exist before you start adding or removing things. On a server someone else set up, this one command can save you from a very bad afternoon. It costs you 2 seconds and tells you everything about where you stand.
And because it is off, we are safe to build all our rules calmly before we ever flip the switch. So let us add the most important rule first, the one that protects your way back in. And stick around to the end, because there is one short command that quietly blocks most automated attackers, and almost nobody sets it.
One thing before the next part, and then we move right on. If any of this is clicking, tap that like, hit subscribe, and ring the bell for the next one. It takes a second, it costs nothing, and it helps more than you would think. This is the most important 60 seconds in the whole episode, so slow down with us. If your Ubuntu box is in the cloud or anywhere across a network, you are reaching it through SSH, the secure shell, your remote command line. When you turn the firewall on, it will deny every incoming connection by default, and that includes the very SSH connection you are sitting in. So you must open that door first, while the firewall is still off. Get the order wrong and you lock yourself out of your own server.
So here's the rule we add before anything else. I type sudo UFW allow OpenSSH. That word OpenSSH is a friendly named profile Ubuntu ships, and it tells the firewall to permit your secure remote login. It answers rules updated for both the older and newer address types.
Wait, you typed it 2 different ways. What is the difference between allow OpenSSH and allow 22/TCP? Because if they do different things, I want to know which one I am supposed to use.
Great catch, Nova, and the answer is they do the same job. OpenSSH is the friendly name. 22/TCP is the literal address, port number 22, using the TCP protocol, which is the channel SSH travels on. Use whichever you find clearer, though the named one is easier to read later.
And let this be the habit you never break. On any machine you reach remotely, allow your SSH access before you enable the firewall every single time. That one ordering is the difference between a secured server and a locked out one. Now we are safe to set our defaults and turn it on.
Now we set the firewall's whole personality with 2 commands. These are the default policies, the rules that apply to anything you have not specifically mentioned. They are the foundation everything else sits on, so let me set them now. First, I set the incoming default to deny, typing sudo UFW default deny incoming, and it confirms the incoming policy is now deny. Then I set the outgoing default to allow. That pair is the heart of it. Block everything trying to come in, but let your server freely reach out for updates and websites.
So deny incoming, allow outgoing. Why that split and not just block everything in both directions to be extra safe? Kai, that was honestly my first instinct as a beginner.
Because your server still needs to do its job, downloading security updates, reaching websites, and sending you data you asked for. Blocking outgoing would break all of that. The danger is unwanted things coming in, so that is the side we slam shut. Security people call this least privilege, closed by default and open only on purpose.
Now, and only now, we flip the switch. I type sudo UFW enable. It warns that it may interrupt existing connections and asks me to confirm, and because we already allowed our login, it is safe to say yes. It answers firewall is active and enabled on system startup.
And notice it says enabled on system startup, which means it comes back automatically every time the server reboots. Then status verbose prints the full picture, your defaults and every rule. Your SSH connection is still alive because you opened it first. The wall is up. Your wall is up, but right now only your remote login can get through. The art of a good firewall is opening just the doors your services genuinely need and not one more. Every open port is a door an attacker can try, and a door you have to remember exists. Fewer doors means fewer things that can ever go wrong.
Say this box runs a website. A web server listens on 2 ports, 80 for plain web traffic and 443 for the secure encrypted version. So I allow exactly those 2 by typing UFW allow 80/TCP, then 443/TCP. Now the site is reachable, and nothing else new is. Now a tightening trick worth real protection. Instead of plain allow for SSH, I use limit by typing sudo UFW limit SSH. That still lets you in, but if any single address tries 6 or more connections in 30 seconds, UFW blocks it, which defeats most automated password guessing. Nova, I can see a worry forming, so go ahead and ask it.
Yes, and it is a real one. I am going to make a mistake eventually and add a rule I did not mean to. How do I see what I have and undo just that one without nuking everything and starting over? That fear is what stops beginners from touching it.
That is exactly why this next command exists, Nova. I type UFW status numbered, and it lists every rule with a number beside it. To remove one, I type sudo UFW delete, then that number. It even confirms which rule it is about to remove before it does. Surgical, not scary.
And one last habit. Turn logging on with UFW logging on so the firewall keeps a record of what it blocks. When something is not connecting, that log tells you whether your own firewall is the reason instead of leaving you guessing. Let us pull it together as a quick roundtable, because if you remember nothing else, 4 simple rules keep you safe. I will name them, and you 2 add the trap that goes with each. Rule 1. On a remote box, always allow your SSH login before you enable the firewall.
And the trap on rule 1 is the big one. Enable first and you lock yourself out, sometimes with no easy way back in. If you ever do get locked out, you usually need the provider's console to recover. So protect your way in first, always.
Rule 2. From the beginner's seat. Deny incoming, allow outgoing. The trap I almost fell into was thinking I should allow everything in so things would just work. That is the opposite of safe. Closed by default is the entire point.
Rule 3. Open only the ports your services actually use, like 80 and 443 for a website, and nothing more. The trap is opening ports just in case. Every extra open port is another door someone can rattle, so if you stop running a service, close its port.
Rule 4. Verify and tighten. Use status number to see exactly what is open. Use limit on SSH to blunt brute force attempts, and turn logging on so the firewall can tell you what it is doing. The trap is setting it once and never looking again.
Honestly, that is way less scary than I expected. It is really just check the state, protect your login, deny by default, open what you need, and watch the logs.
That is the whole craft, and you can run every one of these commands in a few minutes. A firewall is not about being an expert. It is about closing the doors you are not using in the right order and then checking your work. Do it once, the safe way, and your server is dramatically harder to touch. Let us send everyone off with the short version. Here is the whole episode in one breath. Ubuntu ships UFW, the Uncomplicated Firewall, switched off. Check its status, allow your SSH login first, set the defaults to deny incoming and allow outgoing, then enable it. Open only the ports you actually use and tighten with limit and logging.
My favorite command is the simplest, status numbered. It shows you exactly what is open, in plain numbers, so you are never guessing what your own firewall is doing. Run it anytime you change something. And once the firewall feels easy, the natural next step is hardening SSH itself with key-based login instead of a password, which is a perfect topic for our next deep dive.
And from the beginner seat, the lesson that stuck is the order. Allow your login before you enable. That one habit is the difference between a locked door and a locked out you, and it is the mistake I will now never make.
And before we go, one honest favor. If this series is helping you, hit that like button and subscribe. Every like and every subscriber is genuinely what builds this series and lets us keep making the next one for you. Keep showing up for yourself like you did today. Professor Erica here, until the next lesson.